William Frawley, who was known for his role as irritable Fred Mertz on I Love Lucy, died of a heart attack after collapsing on Hollywood Boulevard on the evening of March 3, 1966. His long-standing rival and former co-star, Vivian Vance, was out to dinner with friends when word got around town. "Champagne for all," she said, raising her glass with a smile and a toast. Those familiar with their notorious feud could not have predicted such a startling reply. But what caused the depth of their animosity? What does their backstory tell us about the real dynamics of a legendary TV couple? Even though Lucy and Ricky Ricardo's zany antics are what most people picture when they think of I Love Lucy, the show wouldn't be the same without the irresistible Fred and Ethel Mertz, who were both Lucy and Ricky's landlords and best friends. A big part of the show's success went to William Frawley's Fred and Vivian Vance's Ethel. They quarreled like long marrieds and could make us laugh more than Lucy and Ricky did on occasion. The reality, though, wasn't so pleasant. William Frawley and Vivian Vance were actually very much unlike. If you want to know why, you have to go back to the beginning, when there was nothing but darkness and no television. William Frawley will be the first. He was 64 years old when he made an appearance on I Love Lucy. He was born in 1887. As well as a wealth of life experience. Once upon a time, Frawley was a performer in vaudeville, a type of variety performance that included song and dance numbers among other things. He liked performing on stage and had a natural talent for getting people to laugh. He had already established himself on Broadway by the 1920s, appearing in major musicals such as Mary Mary. He showed that he could do more than just make people laugh by branching out into drama in the 1930s with 20th Century. Hollywood quickly followed suit. While Frawley did make cameo appearances in a handful of silent films in 1916, he didn't take his acting profession seriously until the 1930s. His career as a character actor took off when he accomplished this. He was Judge Harper's political advisor on Miracle in 34th Street, in case you recall that show. Frawley brought his rough charisma to the film and the role. He had a long and varied cinema career, appearing in everything from comedies to tragedies to musicals and even westerns. The role of the no-nonsense protagonist was one of his strengths. No matter if it was an insurance investigator at My San Antone home or a baseball manager in Alibi Ike. However, calls from Hollywood were decreasing by 1951. Frawley had appeared in more than 100 pictures, but his gigs were drying up. Luckily, I Love Lucy was there as a lifeline. The opportunity to play the obnoxious landlord Fred Mertz was too good to pass up when Frawley learned that Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball were looking to cast a new comedy. He made a direct call to Lucille Ball. A daring step for someone she hardly knew, and requested the role. His perfection was questioned by CBS, in contrast to Ball and Arnaz. Frawley was known to be quite unreliable and to drink excessively. He was presented an ultimatum by Arnaz. He was gone after just one misstep. Frawley, unexpectedly, stepped up to the plate. A reliable member of the cast, he never arrived inebriated and picked up his lines fast. Having established that, we can go on to his on-screen wife, Vivian Vance. But also his adversary outside of the spotlight. Vance had a different route to fame than Frawley, who was born 22 years older in 1909. Beginning her career in the 1930s with chorus lines on Broadway, she eventually rose to supporting roles. When she understudied the great Ethel Merman in Anything Goes, she got her big break. At long last, Vance got her big break in the hit musical Let's Face It, co-starring with Danny Kaye and Eve Arden. She was so funny. It was a natural fit for her to perform in musical theater due to her singing voice. Attempting to make it big in Hollywood, Vance relocated to California in the late 1940s. Although she made cameo appearances in films such as The Secret Fury and The Blue Veil, her career in film failed to gain any traction. She was apprehensive about trying out for the role of Lucy on I Love Lucy. Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball recognized potential in her, even though she was unsure if she wanted to portray a stuffy landlord. In an instant, Vivian Vance transformed into Ethel Mertz after she aced the audition. The stereotypical strange pair in film form was Fred and Ethel Mertz. Fred was stingy, irritable, and occasionally downright nasty, but Ethel was spirited, kind, and had just the proper amount of sass to temper Fred. There was a magnetic force between them. One minute they're fighting, and the next they're hatching a hilarious plot. Everyone loved them. It would have been reasonable to assume they were a long-married couple who had been irritated with one another for decades. However, things were different off camera. Frawley and Vance's animosity was palpable. Having someone 22 years her senior as a partner was offensive to Vance, to begin with. Reportedly, she said that he resembled her father more than her spouse. Frawley was not the kind to easily forgive, and he never got over overhearing her remarks. There was a noticeable thaw in their relationship after that. Even Frawley had complaints. He felt Vance looked down on him and believed she was conceited. "That woman," he said of her, without her knowledge, and made derogatory comments about her. At the same time, Vance showed no shame in showing her contempt. The thought of having to work one-on-one with that obstinate little Irishman made her skim screenplays in order to determine how many scenes they would be in together. In spite of their anger toward one another, Frawley and Vance performed like true experts. They turned up, did their jobs well, and left an indelible impression. People in the crowd had no idea anything was amiss. Actually, it was really realistic, which is why their arguing and teasing felt so genuine. The fact that two individuals who were inseparable in real life ended up being one of the most popular couples on television is ironic. Their collaboration reached a tipping point when Desi Arnaz extended an offer for a spin-off series. The original intention was to ignore Lucy and Ricky and concentrate on Fred and Ethel. All in, Frawley was. The conflict with Vance was irrelevant to him, he just saw financial gain. However, Vance declined. Extra time with Frawley was out of the question for her, let alone constructing a full program around the relationship between them. She was afraid the characters wouldn't come together without Ricky and Lucy, so she didn't want to take that chance. Their animosity grew as a result of her decision, which ultimately doomed the project. When I Love Lucy came to a close, Vance and Frawley couldn't have been happier to part ways. After playing a grandfatherly figure on one sitcom, Frawley went on to star in My Three Sons. The Lucy Show was Vance and Lucille Ball's reunion, but Lucille Ball included a provision in her contract stating that Frawley would not make an appearance on the show. Years later, they still couldn't stand being in the same room due to how bitter their rivalry was. After years of collaboration, Frawley and Vance had created one of the most beloved on-screen pairings in television history, but their mutual contempt only deepened over the years. They had already reached the boiling point of their animosity for one another when filming of I Love Lucy finished, and they had no intention of putting on a show of tolerance any longer. Grizzled and quick to retain a grudge, Frawley never let go of his animosity toward Vance. Simultaneously, Vance was also not exactly letting go. When filming My Three Sons, Frawley wasn't afraid to talk about how he felt about his ex-co-star. Someone once inquired as to Vance's true nature while he was visiting with a high-ranking military officer. Immediately after that, Frawley uttered his now famous remark, referring to her as a horrible C*T. Everybody who heard it was stunned. However, for individuals familiar with him, it was typical. Frawley was quick to say what was in his mind. He had limitless resentment at Vance. Naturally, Frawley's wrath was not without cause. During their early years on the set of I Love Lucy, he overheard Vance make derogatory remarks about him. "That old man," she had referred to him, and voiced their skepticism that fans would ever purchase them as a married pair. Frawley discovered new ways to express his anger throughout the series, as if the pain from the beginning had never gone away. He would advocate for lines that made fun of Ethel's looks or said she was annoying and bothersome. It was a means of retribution for Frawley. However, Frawley was mistaken if he believed Vance would capitulate. Vance possessed a witty and quick mind of her own. Without hesitation, she returned to the set and gave it her all. She would subtly poke fun at Fred in certain sequences, referring to him as Old Fat Freddy, and she acted out Ethel's resentment of her husband in a manner that was almost too realistic. It was hilarious gold for viewers. It was a struggle for control going on behind the scenes. The quarrel persisted even after the shutter clicked. After I Love Lucy, Desi Arnaz suggested a spin-off series starring Fred and Ethel, and Frawley eagerly accepted. Despite his feelings for Vance, he was determined to seize the opportunity for a reliable income. Conversely, Vance, turn it off right now. She said she couldn't see the show functioning without Ricky and Lucy to provide a sense of balance and flatly refused to collaborate with him again. However, the reality was that she detested Frawley and refused to subject herself to any more years of his company. She made a move that doomed the spin-off before it even took flight. Because of this, Frawley will never forgive her. Frawley continued to harbor resentment at Vance even after the events of I Love Lucy had ended. He would be quick to judge her based on her weight, her abilities, and whatever chance he got to put her down. The insults weren't little either. There was obviously no love lost when Frawley was asked about her in interviews or by fans. He allegedly made the remark that he would be happy on a day when he would never have to hear her name again. William Frawley's death on March 3, 1966, ended a legacy on television that would live on in the memories of many viewers. Just days after celebrating his 79th birthday, he tragically died of a heart attack while strolling down Hollywood Boulevard. The news didn't come as a complete shock to his friends and family. Frawley was known for his heavy drinking and long struggles with health. Still, the entertainment business is never the same after his death. A lot of people in the TV and film industries thought highly of Frawley for what he did. In a full-page ad she placed in the trade journals to bid him farewell, Daisy Arnaz simply wrote, "Buenas noches, amigo." This was his job on I Love Lucy. Those who had dared to recruit Frawley at a time when Hollywood was skeptical of him gave him a proper send-off. Arnaz was one of 3 pallbearers at his funeral. Fred McMurray and Don Fedderson, who co-starred and produced with Frawley in My 3 Sons, were also there. Despite their infamous animosity, Lucille Ball was among those who mourned Frawley's passing and hailed him as a legend among character actors. For Frawley's admirers, he left behind more than simply happy memories. His contributions to cinema were recognized with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And his Fred Mertz performance is still considered a classic among television's supporting actors. The Lucille Ball Daisy Arnaz Center in Jamestown, New York still showcases artifacts from I Love Lucy, including his frog outfit from the episode Hippity Hoppity. Frawley's brilliance made an everlasting impression, even if he was a complex and unpleasant character in real life. Although some people weren't sad. According to reports, Vivian Vance was out to dinner with friends when she learned of the death of her former co-star. Vance supposedly poured champagne for everybody when she heard that Frawley had passed away. Their intense antipathy toward one another was quickly reinforced by their startling reaction. This may have been Vance's method of finally letting out years of pent-up resentment, but to outsiders it may have appeared cold and harsh. While they were co-workers on I Love Lucy, their animosity took up most of their time. From the very start, Vance despised Frawley. The thought of having a man 22 years her senior play the role of her on-screen spouse made her cringe. According to reports, she took exception at his description of her character as that old coot and insisted that no one would suspect they were married. Frawley, who happened to overhear her remarks, couldn't shake them. Their infamous off-screen animosity was defined by snarky comments, nitpicking, and an intransigent stance toward making amends. The rivalry persisted even after Lucy discontinued her show. Vance and Lucille Ball were filming The Lucy Show when Frawley would drop film canisters or make noise to purposefully interrupt recording. Frawley was guaranteed an appearance on the show by a provision in Vance's contract, who insisted on it. Their mutual animosity was eternal. Still, inside that very moment, among the resounding laughter and bubbly inside the restaurant, Vance allegedly made yet another introspective comment regarding Frawley's passing. "A huge, hilarious light has gone out of this world," she exclaimed. Even if they hated each other, Frawley was still an important person in her life and career, and this was probably an admission of that. Despite their tense relationship, they worked together to create I Love Lucy, a television phenomenon that revolutionized the industry. After Frawley passed away, Vance carried on with her life as usual. However, her health started to deteriorate in the 1970s. She was 70 years old when she passed away in 1979 from metastatic breast cancer. With her departure, I Love Lucy lost yet another original cast member. Lucille Ball and Daisy Arnaz are the only remaining originals. Vance leaves an enormous mark on the entertainment industry, despite the tumultuous relationship she had with Frawley. Her portrayal of Ethel Mertz made her the first actress to ever get an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a comedy series. She was exceptional as an actress because of her impeccable comic timing and her knack for bringing even the wildest events to life. Her services to television were recognized with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, similar to Frawley's. Following her passing, Lucille Ball spoke adoringly of Vance, mentioning her admiration for her portrayal of Ethel. During an interview, Ball revealed that he now spends most of his time staring at Viv. Incredibly, Viv was great. There was no denying her. The accolades showed how important Vance was to I Love Lucy's popularity. She brought charisma, humor, and warmth to the part. Despite working in a field that frequently expected women to sacrifice, Vance persevered and proved herself talented. Today, she is renowned for more than just her role on I Love Lucy. she triumphed over her own demons, including mental illness, to become a fan favorite on television. Her legacy includes photo albums, scrapbooks, and an unwritten autobiography manuscript, all of which provide insight into the life of a remarkable lady who was more than just Ethel Mertz. Parts of their journey may always be overshadowed by the conflict between Frawley and Vance. It's certain that both actors made an impression that will stay. Despite the ugliness of their relationship off-screen, they managed to create something enchanting while they were together. Even after all these years, audiences can still enjoy Fred and Ethel Mertz's legacy, whether it's by laughing at Fred's shabby humor or Ethel's lightning-fast comebacks. Their differences go beyond simply character. Their backgrounds and acting styles couldn't have been more different, and Frawley and Vance were from very different universes. He trusted his gut and his years of experience as a vaudevillian and Hollywood veteran. Famously, he would rip up the pages of scripts that didn't have his lines, since he would only bother to memorize what he needed. In contrast, Vance was more meticulous in her approach to her profession because of her training in the theater. Working with others was important to her, as was practicing beforehand. Things that Frawley was not very patient with. Their already tense relationship became even more so due to their divergent fashion choices. Finally, Frawley's drinking problem was a known issue. He kept his off-screen behavior under wraps during his time on I Love Lucy, but it never affected his performance. He was known to be a grumpy old man who spent his nights at neighborhood watering places. Considering Vance's history of personal struggles and mental health concerns, it's possible that she found Frawley's actions draining and unpleasant. In spite of the animosity, Frawley and Vance made an amazing masterpiece together. The genuine tension between them contributed to the explosive on-screen dynamic. The fact that Fred and Ethel disliked each other made their arguments more real. The crowd thought they were a long-married couple who had been irritated with each other for a long time, and that was partially true. In hindsight, it's nearly comical that two individuals who hated each other ended up becoming such a legendary duo. Their contributions to I Love Lucy were crucial in shaping the program and cementing their place in television history. The show's success, however, was insufficient to heal the rift between Frawley and Vance. They continued to be feuding even after the last episode ended. Their bitter rivalry is an interesting, if sad, side note to I Love Lucy even after they're both dead.